I wanted to be able to stand on stage and be able to play a song like alone. And so I picked up the guitar and worked pretty hard to be able to say like, okay, now I have the band thing, but also like I can pick up and go play a show anywhere I want and not worry about getting the whole band together.
We got a picture.
Yay.
Oh, and now we got the real thing.
Can you hear us?
Amy Doran, how are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Steve, if you didn't already know that.
It's
I'm
not
gonna use your hands.
crypto?
I'm Steve.
Actually, my name is Crypto. Yeah, that's cryptocurrent. I am obsessed with cryptocurrencies, and as such, I've lost a lot of money doing that. So, but it is a pastime of mine, and I enjoy losing money.
Don't we all? If we're musicians, I think that.
Just get used to it, gigging, selling CDs. It's just like you just expect not to make money, so we're cool with that now. And I do that. I do that with my finances as well. So I think it's just kind of a cool thing now. So
Exactly.
And Derek, obviously. So this is our little podcast, which we're about a month in. We're just starting out, so we're really appreciative of you and everybody else who's come on so far. And we're having some fun. Hopefully, I'm hoping to reach Joe Rogan's level by like 3 months.
By month 3.
I'm shooting for month 3. We're gonna get the Joe Rogan status. So
I believe in you.
With a little, thank you. With a little luck, I think we're gonna get there. And
Steve's goals are really, really big. I'm just hoping for 100 subscribers in the next 2 years.
No,
Derek, you and I have similar aspirations.
Exactly.
Derek hopes for the best, expects the worst. That's what Derek does.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
So yeah, I'm so glad I discovered you and your music.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was listening to well, actually, before we even get into that, are you working right now, or because of the COVID thing, or what's going on with you right now?
I am not. I am, having another chapter of life crises, figuring that out. But yeah, music full time when there's no show in sight. So
right.
That's what you gotta do. Gotta go. Just keep going back to music. It'll always, it'll always be there for you. No matter what.
Yeah. What about you guys? What is your situation like?
Yeah, I'm furloughed, which is funny. I actually first heard of this word while getting furloughed. They were like, yeah, I didn't know what it was. I don't think anybody in the job knew what it was. We just knew about getting laid off. So, back in April, they furloughed us at the end of June. So I'm sitting on my butt. I work in like the dental field. I work in a warehouse.
Gotcha.
So they don't really need me. So, and you know what? I'm kind of getting to the point now where I'm like, I kind of hope they don't call me back because I'm liking life right now.
You're enjoying it, yeah.
It's sick. It's like a sick feeling now because I'm getting so lazy. But
yeah, aren't we all?
The pandemic is having an interesting effect on Derek, where it's like his willingness to work or even get out of the house is diminishing by the hour.
I'm telling you, I've only been out like 5 or 6 times.
Huh?
I've only been outside like 5 or 6 times. I'm like a vampire.
I'm with you, and I don't hate it.
I'm kind of on the same page, but I have to like force myself to go for walks. It's like I need exercise. I have to get the steps in. You know what I mean? So I'm just like I would very much like to, if we had a Matrix style reality, we could just plug ourselves in the Matrix and do that. That would be cool. I'd do that in a second. I'd live in the virtual world, and I could be like an avatar of I could be an elephant if I wanted to in the Matrix. You could be anything you want.
You're getting way off track, Steve. Just way off track. We go on tangents, but you just went on like 15 tangents.
All right, we'll bring it back.
That background's really cool behind you. Is that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a great aunt who lived in South America, is what my grandma says. She can't remember what country, and she brought back a bunch of stuff. And my grandma like hates this style, so she was gonna throw it away, and I poached it from her.
Snagged it.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. It reminds me of something specific. Do you watch Game of Thrones or ever did?
Yes.
It reminds me of the work they did in Doran. a lot of the
Yeah.
Dornish. Everything in the background looks like that type of thing, and I just like noticed that right away. I was like, oh, it's kind of Game of Thronesy for me, but I
Oh,
don't know, it's
that's
just me.
cool. I never made that connection. I like
It
it.
does looks
Yeah,
cool. I like that. Very cool.
yeah,
Thank
we're artsy people. We like my father's actually a professional painter.
Oh, wow.
So not only am I into music, but he sends me a painting every day, like on Facebook. And he's like, "What do you think of this one?" He does one like every single day, and I'm like, he's like, "You should write a song every day," and I'm like, "I can't do that. It's just I can't force it. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know."
Yeah, that's amazing
But
that he does that every day.
when did you start just playing music, and when did the moment happen?
Those are two very different answers, I
Different
think.
stories. Different stories.
So I sang my whole life. I was like a choir nerd for through school. But I never played or touched original music until 5 years ago. And I met my first bandmate via Craigslist and like kind of pretended I knew what was going, like he was writing songs and I was like, yeah, sure, I can help with that. And somehow we clicked and he like believed that I could write songs too.
You gotta do, yeah.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. And
Yeah.
we had like an amazing chemistry songwriting together. And then probably like about 2 years ago now, then I started writing songs on my own in addition to the collaborations with him. And started playing shows 5 years ago as well. And that was like, once shows started, that was it for me. Like, I got such a thrill from being on stage, even though I started so terrified. Like, I had severe stage fright in the beginning, but I still loved it enough to like keep going, and now it's my favorite thing. So I miss it so much right
Let me
now.
ask you a question because I actually had the same thing you did. I did theater for years, so that helped me get through it. But music's a different animal. Because when you're at least when I'm in a play, I didn't write the play. I'm just performing as part of it. So
Right.
when I went up there to perform my music, I was like so nervous. And for me, I get this weird thing where my whole body starts to like get really cold. My hands were like freezing while I was playing guitar, and I was like, "Are you guys cold?" And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Oh my god, what's going on right now?"
Huh.
But yeah, I got to. I saw a picture. You play guitar.
I play mediocre guitar and bass.
Nice.
That's what I'll say.
Yeah,
What's cool?
Yeah, I played.
It's only 4 strings, so you can't screw up that much.
Yeah, I in my first band I was playing bass, and then now that I started writing solo, that was like kind of a side project that started while I was full into the other band, and I decided I wanted to be able to stand on stage and be able to play a song like alone. And so I picked up the guitar and worked pretty hard to be able to say like, okay, now I have the band thing, but also like I can pick up and go play a show anywhere I want and not worry about getting the whole band together if I.
right. You don't have to rely on other people to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a piano player, and because my mom was a piano teacher, and then I told my dad one day, I was like, I don't want to bring a keyboard on stage, and he was a bass player, and he's like, do you want to play bass? And I was like, no, I want to sing and like play chords. And he's like, well, here's a guitar, and then I taught myself, and I always did rhythm because I was too scared to try lead, so I'm just the
Yep.
chord guy, the rhythm guy, and I kind of like. I don't know if I regret like I never really tried to do lead, but now I'm kind of like I kind of wish I picked it up. But
I'm with you. I'm with you. I can strum and do the rhythm stuff, but I do now it took a while, but now I'm starting to be jealous.
Yeah, but
Like I wanna
you
do
can
more.
always like start. You can always get that part of the guitar playing down. You can now venture into. So all it takes is focus and practice. You can literally do
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean?
definitely.
That's
yeah,
what I believe anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
yeah. But so the band you were talking about, that was the Strangers by Accident.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard. So as I was talking to you earlier, I was listening to a few songs and I was blown away. I love folk music, that type of sound with harmonies and acoustic, and I play acoustic guitar mainly. So every song that comes out of me is always folky and melodic. So I felt a connection with that type of music. And then you were like, oh, we're not a thing anymore. So I was like, oh crap, let me go to the solo stuff.
Yeah.
But no, great stuff. And even we checked out Thick of It, your EP.
Cool.
And
Thank you.
Really cool.
I thought the first song, especially right off the bat, it reminded me of like an ending to a movie or something, or like I'm sure you're familiar with Quentin Tarantino movies,
Yes.
but it kind of reminded me of that.
That was exactly the goal. So I love that you say that.
Is there going to be a sword fight in the West soon, or what?
So that song like really kicked off the whole like little solo project. I wrote that. It didn't fit Strangers by Accident. And I took it to my friend who had produced the Strangers stuff and was just like, I don't want acoustic guitar. And he helped me put it together. And we were like, oh, this is like a bad, just what you just said, like a Western where like I'm setting everything up in flames. And that was the goal.
Something's going down. Something's going to go down real soon. Yeah. That's what it's cool. Like, I don't know if you've ever like thought of making music first, like short independent films at all. Have you ever thought of that?
I haven't. Like, I don't really know how, but I just did a songwriting thing for 8 weeks where we had to write to prompts like that. And now I'm wondering how to get into that world because it was really fun.
That would be really cool. Just start making connections in the indie film scene, you know, start making contacting people there. And before you know it, you'll get that call, but hey, we need some original music for this scene. And I think that's such a cool process. Like they describe the scene to you, and then you write according to that. And I think that'd be such a cool opportunity. You know, a cool process.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there is websites like this, but I always wanted to do like write my own music for movies or whatever. And I'm wondering if there are like websites out there that are like submit your music and we'll listen to it and we'll consider it for a movie. That would be cool because then everyone wouldn't have to go find people to do this. You could just submit your music and just see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. I started, I would say like a few years ago, I tried to figure out that scene and there were only things that seemed like a scam where they were like, you have to pay $1,000 for a membership to be able to have access to these prompts. But I don't believe that that's the only way. And this motivated me to go.
Well, that's probably the easiest way. You know, usually the easiest way is the most expensive, right?
Yeah.
The ways which don't require money, it involves a little more legwork, a little more homework.
Networking, big.
Dialing, phones, email, just starting to get out there, make a few contacts, and then you'll get that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because I think like you said, if that was your goal to make it sound like that, you achieved it. Because it sounded like the first thing I thought of was like, I actually wrote this down. It was especially for Places Unknown specifically, but I was like, as soon as the drums kicked in, I was like, I feel like there was a shock ending to a movie, and the credits started rolling, and then the drums came in, and I was like, this is so Tarantino. Like, I love this.
Thank you.
So good. But the EP is so cohesive. Each song, it feels like they're connected in a way, which is really, really cool. Are there any songs in there that are favorites of yours?
So Places Unknown is my favorite. I feel bad saying this because like I want to honor that work, but the whole thing was kind of an experiment for me. So now where I stand, I'm like Places Unknown nailed it and is kind of like more of the direction with those like darker sounds that I want to take whatever the next thing is than the rest of that album, but I still really loved making it. But no, seriously, that's like so cool because I'm into that too, like just darker sounds. And I guess this sometimes has a negative connotation, but I think like moody music, like they just put you in a mood. I love that. Like it's my favorite thing. And like that put me in a mood. I was sitting there and like I just realized I was staring at something for like a full minute. You know, it's that type of thing where like you forget where you're at. I'm like, oh crap, I'm listening to music, and it puts you in a place, and that's really something because there's a lot of music out there now that it just seems like it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not honest, I guess. It's just kind of like, oh, we're trying to sell it. It's like, buy me. Like I hear a song on the radio and it's like, buy me, please. Right. And your music's like, no, like this is art. You know, it's a whole different
whole different thing. And I think that's amazing. You can, and especially because without even talking to you, I knew from listening to it, I was like, this is real.
Thank you.
And that's amazing.
I thought
And
from my personal, sorry to cut you off, but my personal favorite was Losing Hand, the very last track.
Yeah.
That was when Derek was talking about moody, put you in a mood, that kind of stuff. That's for me. That's what that song did. I was like, this is like, it was a little bit different than the rest of the song, I thought. So it was like much more subtle sounding.
Yeah.
Definitely for me, it was definitely giving that vibey kind of moody feel, and I thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I was thinking about like the EP, and I was thinking about like whatever you do in the future. I kind of wanted to hear like you do like some crazy effects in your voice too, like just like out of like really out there stuff. Because I was like, she could totally pull it off. Like, because that guitar you do in Places Unknown, it just, you know, right off the bat, it sounds like that sound from Tarantino.
Yeah.
But I was like expecting your voice to be like through like this weird tube or something.
Yeah. So funny you mentioned that. I've never like produced my own stuff at home, but I started getting into that the last month because I'm like, okay, I really need to, I really want to start playing around with this stuff since I have more time. And I'm all over the weird vocal effects. Like right now it's just a playground and some of it sounds like shit, but but on the next album, that's happening somehow.
You gotta experiment. You got to experiment, because I know that Derek and I recorded a song like way in the early days in my basement, right? And I was just like by myself on the computer. I did like what you were doing, just like I was just experimenting with the effects in it was Ableton I was using.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm gonna make this intro. It's gonna sound like a spaceship for like 30 seconds, and then we kept that on there. So it's like just mess around and see what works, and then just by messing around, you're going to get more familiar with the controls, how to do it, and that's going to help you in the future. So experimentation definitely leads to success.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm wondering, this actually just came to my mind as soon as we had this conversation, but I'm wondering if it's better. I mean, I'm sure both answers are correct. I'm wondering if it's better to like not take advice from people when you're writing music and just do what you want to do and just be happy with it, or if it makes sense to have somebody to be like, hey, here's 6 songs I wrote, what do you think? And then, you know, because for me it's like if I write like 15 songs and I show them to somebody and they go, well, these 5 are really good, the other 10 are okay, and if I love those other 10, it's going to put me in a weird place of like, do I release them? Now I feel strange about them because this person doesn't like them. So I don't know. Do you have somebody that, like you said, you show your music to before you put it out?
So I've dealt with that. And I have avoided songs that then ended up being like more successful when I played them out later, that I put away for months just based on one person's opinion. Because I mean, I have like a few different people that I really trust, and before I believed in my own writing, I would send it to them, and if they didn't click with it, I just automatically, just what you said, was in a weird mood about it. And then like a year later, I dug those songs out and so many people resonated, and I was like, shit.
It happens. That's the moral of that story, is you trust yourself. You trust your own.
Right.
It's hard.
Well, it is. Yeah. In any art form, music, performing arts, whatever, it's that internal voice, whether you're acting or a musician, it's that internal voice you need to develop. And then you'll discover over time, then that's what you should be listening to. And like you just proved it to yourself. That's like you shelved it for however many months or whatever, brought it out, and like, that's actually really cool. So, you know, trust yourself more.
Yeah, absolutely. It took me the longest time to realize that like everybody has a different musical palette. You know, if I showed my song to 15 people and one of them says, that's just not for me, I'd be like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
Right.
And I'm like lying, I'm like, you know, I'm like lying in bed, like, I don't understand what he said. The other 14 people said it was good. Why doesn't he like this? It just drives you nuts. And it's like, you got to just come to the, you know, it's okay. Everybody has their own opinion, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's so hard, but that's so true. I remember like the first Strangers by Accident stuff, I was like, why doesn't everybody in the world just like this? And it was so difficult. And now I can look back like so much easier and be like, well, of course they didn't. They don't like folk music. Like that wasn't for everybody. But man, it really is a struggle.
It's insane. It's almost like I don't know, because today's music or the industry today is very odd because there's a million different genres out there, but like there's only a couple that really make, like, the artists really make a lot of money, and I feel like I don't really understand it. You know, like if you look like at the 60s and 70s, it almost made more sense to be an artist back then. I feel like you could get your art there and people would go out and buy your record or whatever. But now that everything's so digital, I don't know if that's a good thing.
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it could just be a sign of technology. You know, back then you had to go out for entertainment, unless you just watch TV, which was boring, I'm sure. You know, but with live bands had such a prevalent role in society up until 80s, 90s, and that's when we get to the 2000s. That's when, you know, being a band wasn't quite as profitable as it used to be, simply because I'm not really sure 100%, but I would guess technology, people, you know, more stuff to do at home, I guess, Netflix, Hulu, and all that good stuff. You know, who knows? But I know the trend for live bands has gone down since, you know, 80s, 90s. I know people that used to, like Derek's dad, for instance, he used to make a living just playing bass and you could make a good living doing it back then. But now it's a different story, and I'm not sure if that's because it's maybe the market's a little more flooded. Everyone have more access to platforms, stuff like that. So it's an interesting discussion, but I'm not sure exactly why. But you know, it's just,
I feel like everybody has everything at their fingertips, and so it just like makes it so much easier for us to be lazy, because it's like I can search for all of the music in this device right here. I can watch all these live performances right here. It no way compares to the same thing as real life, but
it's like it becomes I'll just do it at home, you know. It's like
Whereas when you didn't have that choice, like if your only choice was to go to the city and catch a show in a bar, like, man, of course I would be there every night. Just like there would be no excuse.
Exactly. And that's my point of like the 60s and 70s, like decades, like you go to a show, you don't have your head in a phone, you know, you're there for the experience. And that was a whole different scene. Nowadays, I mean, if we're playing a show and I look out and see like a couple people really paying attention, it hurts me, but I have to also understand that this is just the way it is now. So,
right.
You know,
but,
so you played live shows. You said you're solo now. Do you have any favorite venues that you like to play, or any of them that are close to your heart?
Probably my favorite is Lizard Lounge in Cambridge. Like, just love the vibe there. It's like red and cozy.
Yeah, we got I think we got offered a show there like on a Wednesday night or something, and we were like, we're from the North Shore, like we're not too far from there. We played Cambridge and stuff, but we were like, is this gonna be a good idea? Like, can we bring anybody? We didn't want it to kind of look bad, so we were like, maybe we'll skip over. But I've always wanted to do Lizard Lounge.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah,
I live actually in New Hampshire, so I also will travel to Cambridge or the city for that, and that's like the one venue that I'll do it.
So what's our excuse? We don't have an excuse. She's gonna.
I know every artist is in their own. We're in our own head, you know. I mean, we should have just went for. I always mention this, but like, there's a quote that I absolutely love by Michael Jordan, and he says, "You miss all the shots you don't take." And if we had done that show, maybe there was somebody there who said, "Hey, I wanted you to meet this person," and then all of a sudden, there's this whole new thing.
You'd be driving Benz right now. We drive. I'd be in a castle right now if we just did the Lizard Lounge. You know.
Do you guys have a favorite venue?
Man.
There's a place in Beverly, Massachusetts. It's called Fibber McGee's. It's a restaurant, and they're known for like their wings. They have really good wings, I guess. But it's a little stage, but there's always a crowd. There's just a built-in crowd every time you go because everybody loves that place. So, you know, you play, especially when you start pulling out the cover songs, which I get angry about because I want to play my song. So when I pull a cover, you know, we'll play these really funky originals that we have, and we're like, why isn't anybody dancing? And then we'll pull out like Amy Winehouse song or whatever.
People come out of the wall. People come out of the wall.
All of a sudden, people come up from the floor, and I'm like, where were these people before, and why are they dancing now?
I think covers are literally the sugar, right? The sweet. the candy, the covers of the candy in the original of the vegetables, right? So you gotta like spoon feed people the vegetables, but then give them some candy so they keep eating. You know what I mean? I do that with my dog upstairs. She doesn't eat unless I give her a treat. So I break this. It's anyway.
It's funny because once we played the Amy Winehouse song, every song after that, all the originals that we had, people were dancing to those, and I was like, Steve, I think the cover really put them on their feet. You know, it was almost like a trick. It's like we tricked the crowd into dancing.
They're still on the sugar high, but then you'll notice the sugar high starts to go down. They're like, oh, I need to go back to the bar. Then he busts another cover out, and the sugar high goes back up. So it's a fine balance of you just kind of have to manipulate the listener a little bit.
You've got it all figured out.
There's a science behind it. We're still trying to figure it out, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah.
Do you perform covers when you do live shows?
I try to avoid it, but I do the occasional Amy Winehouse or Nirvana on the ukulele.
Right.
Heck yeah.
You're right. Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's so funny how that just gets the reaction, and it breaks my heart every time people are excited about a cover we're playing, and I'm like, everyone's so happy except for me, and I'm the one playing the song.
Clapping like, shut up. Don't clap.
Yeah, I know. I get angry about it, but it's just something that for years, I even told the guys, I was like, I don't want to play covers live. And we finally started doing it, and then I realized that it just has to be in there to get the crowd reaction. And I don't know if it's even like a thing where my dad tried to convince me once that like if you play a cover and then play one of your originals, they'll have something to compare it to, your song. And if the song is good enough, then they see that, you know, wow, this is good too. Then maybe they'll dig your music a little bit more. So now they have something to compare it to on the spot. And it made me nervous because I was like, well, what if it's not as good as, you know, we did like Cocaine by Eric Clapton, and then we did another song after that, and we're like, is this as good as Cocaine? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I get kind of concerned, but the whole thing is just it's a science, and I don't know if we've got it, but
it's COVID is screwing us up.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. I don't even know if I'll be able to. I don't know if I remember how to play live. Like I don't remember any of the songs anymore.
I did. Well, the open mic thing that you were at, like that was one of the first times that I was playing my songs in a while, and I was like, oh crap, like I'm out of practice, and that didn't feel too good. So I need to.
Well, I couldn't tell. You sounded great.
Thank you.
But I went into that pretty cocky. I was in a good mood, so I was very loose and excited. And then after I played, my dad was like, "That was great, except nobody could hear your guitar playing." And I was like, "What?"
Couldn't hear it.
Amazing. So I'm like, you're basically just saying a cappella to 3 songs. Great. That's awesome.
You strummed it really good. I could tell you could strum it a lot.
He was like, lucky enough I knew the song, so I knew where you were going, but couldn't hear your guitar.
Filled in the gaps in my head. I knew the song already.
Yeah, unbelievable. So are you working at all on a new musical project, or have new songs for like an album or anything that you're working on?
So finally, in the past like 3 weeks, I have 4 songs that I finally feel like somewhat good about. They're not complete yet, but it's been, the last time I was writing was like last summer, and everything that I tried to write since then just felt like crap. And finally, I think something's happening, but I don't know. So the solo thing like started as a side project just because these songs were happening that I didn't know where to place, or like what kind of band or what sound I wanted it to be. And so I'm kind of been taking COVID time to figure out what I would want in a new band, like what that sound would be. So the new stuff that I'm writing is kind of like a darker soul infused thing, and I want it to be more like Black Keys or alt rock something. So we'll see like these 4 songs, what they morph into, and what kind of bandmates I might be able to trick into coming on board.
Oh, that sounds
good. I like that dark soul type thing, because it's very familiar with what we do, and we I would write a song on acoustic guitar, it'd be super melodic. And then I'd bring it to the band, and all of a sudden it became a funk song. And I was like, what just happened to my song? And it's cool because I started writing a lot of like darker things. I can't write about happy things. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. It's got to be it's got to be depressing, or depressing became horror influence. So then I started writing songs like about werewolves, and I had this song called Seven Witches. And all of a sudden I realized, I was like, guys, did we just create a new genre? Are we horror funk? And it excited me for a while. That's why, like, when you said dark soul, I was like, ooh, I like that, dark soul.
I like horror funk.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't know. We have a video on YouTube, Seven Witches. It's like a black and white, like old horror-esque video we made, and it's mixed with funk music, or we thought was funk. So
yeah, we just wrote it like it was one of those. So we hired a videographer, and we went to some park in Beverly, and like, oh, it's and we had 7 women dressed as witches. So we're just like, all right, we get everybody. So what's the first scene, guys? Like, all right, you guys stand over there.
All the way through.
Who's got candles? You got candles? Put the candles around, and just we had a lot of fun.
I kept saying to everybody there, I was like, I just want the viewer to feel strange while watching this.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait to watch it. I'm watching as soon as we're done.
It's just so odd. Like I want people to be like, wait, what is he doing in those 3 seconds? What just happened on that staircase?
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff I like. Is like the movies that make you like question yourself afterwards. Like, I don't understand what even happened.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm trying to do with my new writing.
That's awesome.
What kind of this is like a familiar theme we're hitting on here. It's like beginning. We talked about the first track on the EP, right? It reminded us of the Quentin Tarantino style, right?
Yeah.
I think film and music is like, I think that's such a cool direction to go in. It's just like, because the two go hand in hand already. So adjust your songwriting to that and kind of be in that mode. It's like, I'm writing a song, but what movie would I see this in? You know, so I think that would make for some really good content.
Yeah. Huh.
I feel like you're the type of artist, and again, I literally just met you, but I already feel like you could try really weird things and get a really cool sound. Like I want to hear you do really strange things in the studio, and then I can get you really excited about it.
I can send you some strange demos.
Yes, please do, because I love that type of stuff.
Now that I know you like the uncomfortable stuff, because
you know, like I said, like. Well, also, I like when we had this discussion a couple episodes ago, I think. We were talking about how there are moments in music that are like so real, like in classical music, like when you're listening to a classical piece and you hear the person playing piano like breathe or take a breath.
Yes.
Or turn a page. It's something so real about it. Like it's, you know, or even I'm a big Bob Dylan fan, and one of his first few albums, he would like laugh in the middle of a chorus. And I'm like, he had so much confidence to say, hey, just leave it in, I'm Bob Dylan type thing. And like, wow. Like, and so when people send me, you know, when I hear demos or like weird things that like, I'm not really confident about, but take a listen. I love that stuff because it's so real. It's like, it was you know, it wasn't you trying to be like, I tried to make a #1 hit here. No, you didn't. You just try to make something cool. And that's what's the best, you know?
I couldn't agree more. I think like that is what I struggled with to this point with every song that I've ever recorded. Like it's too polished, like when I've gone into the studio. And so after I sit with it, I'm like, oh, that like, I kind of like going back to my crappy demos that I recorded poorly, because there's just this reality in it. And I want to find a way to connect that like in my next recordings, like exactly what you just said. If you listen to an album and you hear those little real things from that moment, like that's the best.
And there's such a big crowd for lo-fi music.
Yeah.
I love it. I love when things are lo-fi and like not polished.
Me too.
And like you're right, I feel the same way you do sometimes, where I have a song that's very raw and just me and singing it and playing guitar, and then I hear the polished version later, and I'm like, it just sounds like I tried too hard to make it sound like something.
Yeah.
But it was much more raw and real to me when it was just like on my phone recording, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So weird.
But that's funny. So what are some of your influences when you started writing?
That's shouldn't be a hard question.
Well, I know you mentioned the Black Keys, which is really cool because I'm a fan of them too.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I wrote, and part of the reason why I'm struggling with my Thick of It EP is I wrote it and I didn't really connect to influences. So I had the songs and I didn't place them. I just knew these aren't folk. And we just went all these different directions. And then that came out in October. And I've been sitting with them like since January now saying, wait, who is my voice as an artist? And like, what do I want? And I've been listening to a lot of different albums over this weird period, the past 2 months. And I guess if I'm talking now, like Florence and the Machine, Black Keys, Sia, Cage the Elephant, those are what might influence me going forward. They're not, it's weird. I'm having trouble like confidently claiming it because they're not necessarily artists that I've been like in love with my whole life. It's just kind of, I've been in this weird exploratory phase and kind of looking for pieces of, okay, what do I want now? But when I grew up, I was more into like the Beatles, Billy Joel.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Hold on.
I am a die-hard. We actually, oh nice. That is so awesome.
Oh yeah?
We are, Steve and I,
Damn it.
We're die-hard Beatles fans. I'm like an encyclopedia of, I could literally be a Beatles historian. That's how much I know about them.
That's awesome.
No, it's a sickness. He can't.
I'm ill. I'm ill with the Beatles.
He's ill.
I love it. I love it. I love.
You know what? Like, I grew up. The first thing I ever heard was I went downstairs. I was 5 years old. My dad was painting, and he had the White Album on cassette tape. And I was like, "What are these sounds I'm listening to?" And it blew my mind. I just said, "I want to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to do it." And my whole life, I've been chasing the Beatles. And my dad's like, "Derek," he's like, "You're shooting really high. You know, just try to have your own voice." Because he would even say like, "You sound like you're trying to sound like John Lennon in a lot of these songs." And I'm like, I can't help it. I love him.
I love him. That's amazing.
So great. That's amazing you say that because I look my whole life Beatles, and then now I'm listening to like, James Brown because we have a funk sound, and now I have to evolve and listen to other things to influence it. But I'd love to just be Beatles, but I can't.
Maybe you can. Just keep trying.
No, I don't think so. But I appreciate it.
Beatles to James Brown. That's a good transition right there.
Well, like you said, like the Black Keys and Florence and the Machine is not necessarily what you've always been into, but now you're evolving as an artist, and you're like, well, these are kind of cool, and I could totally picture you doing like that style because it already started to happen in Thick of It. I already heard some of those elements, and now I feel like putting effects in your voice and just being kind of raw and doing what you want is going to be really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens, and it's interesting because I don't want to put myself in a box either. So I've been like struggling with saying, I'm looking at all these albums, trying to figure out like who or where I want to go sonically, but I don't know. At the same time, like my first band, since it was 4 of us kind of all in it together, we all had these different voices. And now that I don't have that right now, I'm like, I really need to start picking apart all of these orchestrations and kind of put my head in a space to like hopefully bring people in that feel the same way. I don't know.
Sure,
I feel like I'm rambling.
No, you're not rambling at all. I love that because we started this podcast mainly because, well, number one, we weren't doing anything, but number two, we were like, there's a lot of musicians out there that are just chilling just like us, and maybe we can connect with them and just talk to them, or even at the very least talk to them. But we were thinking, hey, maybe this could be some collaborations down the line because we're pretty tight-knit band, the 4 of us, and we love what we do. But like I said, I write folky music on the side, and and each one of us does different things. So, you know, Steve and I were always like, what if we were to collaborate with some people, just do a track with somebody else, and it could influence us and then influence that person too to do something else. So if you ever wanted to share stuff with us, we'd love to share stuff with you and whatnot.
That's awesome. I would love that. I actually started co-writing with a bunch of people over this time, and I don't know, like, I don't know if the songs will ever see the light of day or not, but we've done Zoom sessions, and just like, I don't know, it's helped my own writing just to sit and bounce ideas off of people who write completely different realms, just brings different pieces out of each person, and it's been so cool. So that's been something that I've almost been thinking like, oh, maybe I should start, like, try to do some sort of demos album with like 1 a week co-writing with musicians.
Like a really cool idea, actually, and making an album with like kind of like what Santana did. He'd have like
I was gonna say Santana. That's so funny.
Every track was a different dude or a woman.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I think you should do that. 100%. That should be the next EP album. That's how it's like wicked fun too. Like you said, you get more. You get more, like, you add to your vocabulary when you collaborate with other artists. And as a, you know, we're all musicians here, and like when I play with other people instrumentally, I get better, because it's just like you get something when you practice all you want. You can practice the scales and the stuff by yourself, and that's all cool. But you get something when you jam with other people that you can't get by yourself, and that's my playing has improved every time I play with other people. My playing improves just every time. So it's
me too.
And that's like Derek was saying, that's kind of like this podcast that we started, that's kind of like what it's becoming, is like we want to become a platform for musicians to kind of commingle and like collaborate with each other. And we thought that was so cool, because like most of the time we're just like, most bands are kind of like you know, you gotta be out for yourself and worry about your own situation. That's all cool. But a lot of the times, you know, with big like jazz formed, when it's got like a concoction of different musicians blending together with different styles, and that's when you get the best. Like throughout history, I feel like the best art comes out through collaboration.
I agree.
So that's what we're about here at the Cosmic Vultures podcast.
And you know, Steve, to piggyback off that, and this is something that I literally just thought of. We play a lot of shows with a lot of bands, and we want to get to the point where we can do 3-hour shows, just us. We have to fill 3 hours of music, which is insane sometimes. But so we'll extend a song for 15 minutes. But it's funny to think about some of those nights that we'll play with 3 other bands, and we won't talk to them. Like, it'll be a quick, like, oh, how you doing? Thanks. Like, okay, we'll play next. And I literally just got a band on here recently. And we had played a show with, didn't talk to them at all that night. Just the stars didn't align for us to have a discussion with them. And then now we're pulling them on here and actually finding out who they are and becoming buddies with them, type thing. And I was like, that's so crazy. It took us to just do this over Zoom. It took us to be at home to connect with these people who we were in person with. You know, it's like, you know, it's insane to me. It's like we couldn't get it together, but now we're on Zoom and it's a whole different ballgame. Now we're friends with everybody because you can't see me in person, you know?
Right. No, I've thought about that a lot, actually, because I feel like I'm making a lot more connections actually in the local music scene since this has started, and that confuses me.
It's definitely strange. It's definitely it's very odd. But okay, I get 2 really annoying questions for you.
Oh gosh.
They're going to be annoying because I know that as a human, you will change your mind tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But in the moment, if you could open for any artist in the history of music, you would open the show, and this artist / band would be second after you. Who do you think that would be? Ultimately, your number one pick in the moment.
Take as much time as you need to.
Yeah, we're gonna edit this, so don't worry.
No.
I'll make it seem like you answered instantaneously.
Yeah, we'll cut it. So
I'll edit
it.
That's beautiful. Coming to my brain is Death Cab for Cutie.
Okay, I actually hear some sounds, some influences in that. Actually, I thought of them earlier.
Know if I do.
I for some reason that band came to mind earlier when I heard them, because they have, I don't know, they're interesting. They're interesting, and it'd be cool to, you know. you to open for them. That would be a really cool show.
I mean, Black Keys was in the tip of my mind, but I was trying to just push them away because we had talked about them already. But they're, I don't know, they're still feeling pretty strong in my heart. But maybe that's just because I'm listening to them too much lately.
I gotcha. Do you ever watch the Joe Rogan podcast?
Yes.
So about a week ago, I stumbled upon the Black Keys on Joe Rogan, and it's a 3-hour episode. They sit there and talk to Joe Rogan, the two of them. Patrick Carney, the drummer, who he's the one who talks the most, and Dan Arbach, the guitarist and vocalist. And the two of them sit there with Joe Rogan for 3 hours. And when that was over, I was like, this is over already? I could have listened to them talk for another 4 hours. It's so insightful. It's so funny. I totally recommend it. I actually watched it twice. So that took up 6 hours of my time.
I'm watching that after I watch your creepy video.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch that. We need lots of notes from you too. We expect
exactly
a review of that video.
But this one is a little bit more difficult, and we ask everybody this.
Okay.
So keep in mind, we've had some crazy answers to this, so don't worry. Whatever you say is not going to be crazy to us. Okay. If you could have dinner with any 3 people in history, they don't have to be musicians either. They could be anybody. They don't have to be famous either. Just 3 people that you could think of that, wow, this would be really cool to get these guys together, or girls.
Okay. Well, the first answer is both really easy and really hard because it's either John Lennon or George Harrison. And I'm going to say George Harrison because even though John might be my favorite, I feel like he's an asshole, and dinner would like I wouldn't talk like I don't know. So I feel like I want to talk to George.
That's great. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a good answer.
I have a lot to say, but I don't want to keep cutting you off. So go ahead.
I want to hear what you have to say, though.
So I'm an insane Beatles fan. Like every day I'm researching them just so I can discover something new about them.
Yeah.
And Paul would always give these interviews about like towards the end when it was like 1968, 69, and John had that like huge beard and long hair and the granny glasses and things, and they weren't getting along too well. They were on each other's nerves and stuff. And Paul was like, the one thing that I used to love about John is that we would get into these big arguments, and then John would take his glasses off and he would look at Paul and say, hey, it's only me under here. It's still me. And Paul got really emotional when he said that. And I thought it was like the sweetest thing that like, we're in the same room together for 10 years making music, but hey, I still love you type thing.
Wow.
And Paul said that before John died that they got together a couple of times in New York and had some good times at John's home. And Paul's like, I'm so happy that happened because John would come off as this like, think he was like, just like the top, John had that like, I'm God type thing. Almost,
exactly.
Really.
At the end.
And Paul said, if you knew John the way I did, he was just another guy and he was a different person. And that really helped me because I agree with you. I always thought John was a jerk, especially out in public, the way he acted, things he said were kind of like not what I agree with, but and George seemed to be the opposite. George always had something sweet to say,
Yeah.
But anyways, I can go.
Cool.
I can talk about
I loved that. Didn't make me think of my other answers though. So okay.
Sorry.
How dare you? I think. Do you guys know Jon Stewart?
Oh yeah.
Daily Show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's coming to the table.
Wow. So we got George Harrison and Jon Stewart so far?
Yeah.
Oh, Jon Stewart. I misheard that. Yeah, Jon, of course.
Yeah, I think he's there.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's in Death to Smoochie. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Robin Williams and Edward Norton. You got to say it's a crazy movie. Yeah, Jon Stewart's in that. Yeah.
He's up in Half Baked too.
I don't even know why he came to my mind, to be honest. I'm not like, I don't know.
Maybe he's somehow a musician.
I don't know. Anyway.
He's a cool guy.
I don't think it would be a good dinner. All right. Who's third?
Wait, this is a good, no, is it 2 or 3? I thought there was 3, right?
3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more to go. Yeah, one more to go.
All right. This is really hard. Do other
You're
people
not under a
answer really
magnifying glass, I promise.
No, you are. You're under a magnifying glass. We like to make our guests as uncomfortable as possible.
All right. Have you? Okay, if the answer is no, then I'm gonna pick a different person. But have you guys heard of the Midnight Gospel? No.
Oh no.
Your background really reminds me of it. So it's like weird. Yes. Your beautiful album art.
Yeah, that's our album
awesome,
cover. Yeah.
By the way. Okay, it's a really out there TV show that's based on a podcast by this guy named Duncan Trussell.
Oh, Duncan Trussell. I know that
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
So
Not present.
Gonna be the third guy.
Oh, Duncan Trussell. Wow.
Yeah.
This is a cool dinner. George Harrison. We got Jon Stewart and Duncan Trussell.
So I haven't listened to Duncan's podcast much, but like the Midnight Gospel is an animated version of some of his podcast episodes.
Oh, cool.
And they're so out there, but it's right up my alley. So it's like some really weird out-of-body experience stuff that he goes into. So I feel like him plus George plus Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart's like, why am I here?
But he would handle it so well.
Joe Rogan brings out the food to everybody. He's like, here you go, guys.
Yeah, right.
You can burn it.
That's so funny.
Seriously.
Amy, thank you so much for coming on here with us. We had so much fun talking.
Thanks.
I'm amped to hear your demos and what you come up with next, because it seems like you have some stuff brewing, and I'm anxious. So I'm excited.
You. This is only part one. We want you back soon. We can't wait to hear what you turn out with the new material.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time and having me on.
Yeah, you had a ball.
We appreciate you coming on, and nice meeting you, by the way.
Nice meeting you too.
Feel like we've been friends for years now after this.
Yeah.
But let's do it again. We'll see you soon, and keep in touch, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, good talking to you.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Conspiracy, it's the only crutch that you have on me. The hog in the house.